It was like, hey,
yeah. Well, I mean, public. I mean, I saw the financials. You guys had money, and you were surviving, and there's a case we made thriving. It just at what level, at what pace, at what work.
Exactly right.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a testament to Spiffy, I think. So
yeah.
Well, thank you.
What we ended up saying was this option, should we do it, would be like if we could jump into a time capsule or a time machine and fast forward X amount of years to the company that we would want to build, and we can do that by joining Spiffy, or or go this other alternative route that may take 5, 10 years. Then we're going head to head. It was just, Connor used the expression like "go further, faster together." He said that early on, I remember, and I feel like we've done that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so it's basically August of 2022, so we're knocking on almost a year with you guys, and so very proud that when we acquire companies, we like to keep the folks around, and the founder is still around for all the companies we've acquired, which is nice. And
really
Scott and I are proud of that, and I think it says a lot about the companies we buy and our ability to pick good partners. And again, I think that's there's a lot of chatter there's academic discussion about culture and cultural fit and all that sort of thing. But when push comes to shove and you got to write checks with lots of zeros, that's really what makes it successful or not. Like, again, we bought this other big company that was arguably a little bit bigger than Spiffy at the time from a revenue standpoint. We had like more people and trucks, but they were generating more revenue. And their CEO is still around. Jack said, he works for us, right? And I think he's happy. Still here, 3 years later. And so, I think that's, when you're looking at buying companies and you're looking at growing and you're looking at acquiring, if you're interested in being an entrepreneur, like, get started early. Like, there's no timeline on when you can start selling product and solving problems. Scott's on his fourth company. This is sort of my second, and it was interesting. I told a story. I might have told this on another podcast with some friends. I was so as you may have heard, all of us bike. Well, Josh, Harrison, and I bike, and Adam, he
is still on the market to be a professional skateboarder.
He skateboards, and he learned very painfully in North Carolina. That's not the same as mountain biking.
Nope.
It's an athletic event. It's different. No, but I was biking with my buddies, and they're working at big companies, and they're like looking forward to retirement. Like, when are you going to retire? I'm like, I don't know. I don't really think about that. And why not? I'm like, I don't know. I sort of like going to work. Like, I'm not that old, and I have lots of energy, and I can only imagine me pouring that energy into things that are non-productive if I stopped working. I'd bike all day and drink all night, and at some point that spirals into either a car accident or a liver disease. And so I'm just going to come to work every day because it keeps me healthy. And so having biked with me, you guys have seen both of those sides of that, right? And so, so anyway, so let's talk about
I'm distracted from the road trip.
Yeah, we want to talk about the acquisition team building road trip. Harrison, you were like the captain of this tour. So this is, again, it was before the deal closed, and we're supposed to look at sites and locations and meet managers, and you had basically that morning told your team you're selling the company, right? Is that how that went down? Or day before? I mean, there's some short period of time earlier, right?
Right. Nothing was inked, so we didn't want to like sound the alarm if it wasn't going to happen, or cry wolf or anything. And but I don't even think we told all of our technicians, but told our key.
You told the managers. Yeah, told your managers. Yep.
And so, because that was who you were going to be acquiring and who you were interested in. And I remember I thought it was odd that you were coming in for a day to see Tennessee. And at first I was like, he doesn't know the geography of Tennessee, like how long of a state it is. But
he did actually.
Yeah, but soon to find out it was very deliberate. So I was thinking like, like he won't even get to go to like our favorite spots in Knoxville or like see anything of Knoxville. We're gonna have basically 30 minutes at each stop. And so we started the day in Knoxville, bright and early. They flew in.
Yeah, I brought two of my regional managers, right?
Shout out Dooley and Crystal.
Yeah. And so you met our key personnel
who are they're more skeptical than me. So you got to bring your skeptics with their binoculars and their white gloves to check the system out, right?
Which again was communicated loud and clear when they get to Nashville. I don't mean to fast forward, but I meet you guys at our lunch spot, and I don't think either of them like even looked at me. They didn't like care. They didn't give two craps that I'd walked in the building or was sitting down at the same table with you guys.
Well, they thought you were a technician, I think was part of that. Like, who's the dude with the greasy hands? Not specifically we're all technicians, but they're like, Carl said we have to operate this circus. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. So we're in Knoxville for 30 minutes and then start driving 3 hours due west to Nashville. We grab a quick bite to eat, and they want to see our Nashville location, and that's where Josh enters the scene because he's running the show there. And they meet some key folks there, and I kind of see the shop and maybe a couple vans, and then we just keep rolling. It's like, we don't have time to dilly dally, so we keep going west.
Crystal pointed out our secret client based on the tires that were stacked up on the side.
Oh yeah, Crystal walks out. Oh, so you guys work for the Postal Service? Like, dang it, which we had not disclosed at that point, right? Yeah.
Those are ELV tires. So how do you know that?
I was like, what?
To this day, Crystal, big time shout out. That's just unusual information that you had in your head.
Dude, there's like an encyclopedia of that stuff in there. It comes out every day.
It's so true. And we head to Memphis. This is a newer operation for us there, but we essentially got there, and by this point, to Carl's credit and his great strategy, the expedition that we had rented from Enterprise is really vibing. Everybody's got inside jokes going at this point, where we're making jokes about Dooley vaping, we're making fun of Crystal for you name it, and we're all having a good time and actually developing mutual respect for each other's companies. And
so there's 5 of us in the van. No, 6 at this point, right? There's 3 of us and then 3 of us, right? So there's 6 of us, and it's not a van. It's a Ford Expedition, which has 3 rows, but like you don't really want to be in the back row.
Yes, Josh and I were cast back to the children's seats in the back of the Ford Expedition.
Yeah, right. And if you don't know me, like I generally drink 2 pots of coffee a day. Like starting at 5 a.m. there'll be a pod, and then it's there's an afternoon morning pod, and so we stopped several times for Starbucks, right? And like, hey, can we stop and get a drink? We pull over on like some nowhere stop on 40 in Tennessee, and I'm like, dude, where am I supposed to get coffee? Well, a gas station has coffee. I'm like, dude, I'm not drinking that swill. We need to go find a Starbucks. And so then we like drive around, right? And Crystal's like, hey, dude, if you come on board, you got to realize we got to go find coffee all the time. Otherwise, you're not going to get it done. And then this other guy who works for Kevin Dooley. He's younger, but he vapes. And so like, we got to stop. Like, dude, you're not doing that shit in my car. Like, none of us in here smoke. You put that poison in your body. We're going to stop. He'll stop on the side of the road. He looks like a factory, right, coming out of him. So we had a couple of those stops, right? And so these guys are like, what is going on? Who are these people? Like, first we meet Murphy. No, we got the bait and switch. We got Connor, who's incredibly professional, Duke MBA, like, could work, you could put him in a McKinsey consulting meeting with a Fortune 500 CEO and he would be just fine. And then like, whoop, no, we got Carl. right?
Yeah.
And,
And then whoop, no, we got Dooley.
no, and then he
Whoa!
brought his posse with him of
Yeah.
skeptical operators, right? Dooley
Yeah.
and Crystal, and we have to spend the entire day together. And they're like, "Hey, are you guys getting your own car? No, we're gonna ride. Go get a car big enough for all of us. Like, just get one car, right?" Harrison shows up, got an expedition. That was smart, and then we spent 9 hours in a car together. And coming in, so I get to the airport, and Dooley and Chris were like, "Do we have to spend 9 hours in a car with these guys?" They're the same thing. A car. Do you know how big Tennessee is? I'm like, yes, I went to college. I understand geography. I know exactly how effing long Tennessee is. This is on purpose. They're like, why? I'm like, well, look, we're going to give these guys a lot of money. They want to work on our team. Like, if we can make it 9 hours, they'll be successful. If we can't make it 9 hours, like, I'm not doing the goddamn deal. And so, okay, cool, right? And like, what do you want us to do? I'm like, I don't know, look around for stuff that's jacked up. Like, I sort of know what's going on. Go find things that are wrong or right? Just like look around and, be sort of, James Bond, Jason Bourne, and, Fred the mechanic, mix swirl together and be cool about it. And so, so we end up in Memphis, right? So then you took us to a barbecue place, right? So part of every good is like, let's go get some barbecue. And it was like there was like a brewery too. We did a craft brewery ahead of early, and then we went to this barbecue place where we pounded a bunch of barbecue. And if you guys like the beauty of Pit Crew is like they don't stay in hotels, they just stay with friends, right? So it's like, I don't know, there's like some family member girl, I don't know, there's like some thing. I'm not sure you guys
we went and stayed at my brother-in-law's house, whose guest room I'm sitting in right now.
yeah so
True story.
The best part about Pit Crew is the travel budget is very thin, which I appreciate. And so they're going there, and me and Dooley and Crystal were at this hotel, the Moxie. Is that right? Is that where we stayed?
Yeah.
The Moxie.
Oh yeah.
They have like a little cocktail place in there, so we get a cocktail, and they both did the same feedback I do. Like, look, hey, we like the business, we like the guys, we like the place. Like, let's go do this, right? So I called Scott, and he's like, he was sort of like perplexed by the whole road trip. Also, I said, hey, road trip went well. Deal's on. Let's go. He's like, cool. I'll tell Connor. And then we gave a couple cocktails to Dooley. Like, I'd never really spent any time with him after hours because like he ran Charlotte, and I would always just like drive home, right? So if I was in Charlotte, like it's 2 hours from home, I'd rather just go home than burn a hotel and a dinner in Charlotte, right? So I just drove back, and then I got all this inside scoop on a bunch of people who had left Spiffy. It was like I didn't know any of this. It was these are stories inappropriate for the podcast, but
Dooley and I have graced the Moxie a few times since. Yeah. It's nice. A great place to hang. Yeah,
it is. Yes, Operations Underground recommends the Moxie in Memphis.
The Moxie and Bar Dog's right around the corner. Great place to get a meal.
Okay,
Carl, that's probably a cooler car ride than Josh and Harry, because I got now sitting where we are, Scott and Kevin have both spent considerable time talking and investing to me, and I'm very grateful for both of those men. So it's just that it's fun to look back now and the relationships I have with them and the time we've spent together now, even though it's not been, it's not been 10 years, it's, been one, but
like 10 months. Yeah,
exactly. But it's still neat to think back at where the origin of the relationship and where it is now. It's a lot of fun. So
yeah, for sure. Well, like Spiffy years they're like dog years. It's like 6 or 7 for everyone. Like, God, like I've accomplished a lot. It's been like 12 months.
Sure.
Well, like when you're trying to grow 100% a year, like there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And so if you like that, it's great. If you don't like it, it can be a very unpleasant work environment.
Yeah.
We've gotten big enough where we have enough DNA and antibodies to either attract or reject the right folks. So cool. So we did the road trip, and then we closed the deal. And then so tell us about Adam, you've had a lot of exposure recently to corporate. Like what's been congruent with your vision for, post entrepreneurship and what's been incongruent with it? Like what's happened and what has not happened over, like, say, the last year, and what's been sort of surprising to you?
That's a good question. And one I'll probably think on for a long time now since you've asked that. I think the thing that's most in line that we were most hopeful for was the opportunities that this was going to give our staff. And we had kind of invested in and developed some people that we like really cared about or pulled in, that we already knew previously and gotten invested in this thing. And so we had this idea, Harrison referenced, like, this is kind of fast forward on pit crew, and we're gonna like make real career paths, not only just for us, but like for the people that we've invested in and sold a vision to, and that's been right in line and goes with what we were talking about, when we first got on, and maybe before we hit record here, but of the opportunities that Spiffy affords for all sorts of people, especially in automotive, that have that background and sort of the expanded horizon that Spiffy offers. And so I think that's kind of the most in line with what we were hopeful for, aside from just like, hey, we're going to join an awesome big team that's going to grow really fast and continue to, accelerate this thing and change this space in automotive. That's obviously been right in line with exactly what we want to do, but that's kind of the obvious one, right? That's what we do. It's the banner. It's, that's what you see at face value, but those stories and seeing guys, our people, I mean, we've had some of our people really move and grow, and our leaderships in cities. And now, I mean, they're now running those cities without me. So, right. Which is a cool evolution and something I've, to be, I think, proud of. So that all of that has been right in line. What's different, man? I mean, I don't even know where to start, honestly. I mean, the beast that is the company and all the moving pieces and initiatives and personalities. I mean, it's way more than I could have fathomed that we were gonna kind of run into. And you told us that going in. You're like, hey, you were very upfront with us, like, hey, no one knows what this looks like in a year. No one knows what it looks like in a few years. Like, there's gonna be opportunities. Like, we've got goals, and like, we're pretty good at hitting them. And so, like, come on board if you're ready for the ride.
So this is like a common selling entrepreneur problem, is like, or question, like, what am I gonna do? Mm-hmm. What are the options available for me? And I'm like, I don't know. Well, why don't you guys, we'll send them, we had you guys come to the headquarters. Why don't you come to the headquarters? Well, you can interview with a bunch of people and work wherever you want. And that's sort of what it's like with, with entrepreneurs. And I had the same question with, we bought Zach's company, which is at the time, dollar wise bigger than Spiffy. And I said, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to be, the biz dev rep for our largest client. I'm like, okay, cool. Awesome. What don't you want to do? He's like, I don't want to do any of this operation stuff anymore. Like, I don't want to deal with training and maintenance and all. I said, okay, cool. And so like we had like this handshake agreement, like, look, I'll do the operation stuff, you do the biz dev stuff, hit the numbers, and I don't, I'm not going to bother you, right? And we've made it 3 years, and for all of my shortcomings personally, I'm honest and direct. And like, again, I think we had that conversation with you guys, like, look, show up, work. There's all kinds of stuff to do here. Do you want to turn a wrench or punch a keyboard or jabber away and sell stuff and come do that. So I tell you, as people, we bring people into the company now, and it's like, oh, right, we're going to do 50 million this year, and next year we're trying to figure out how much we're going to do, and it's going to be like a lot more than 50. And I have like notebooks at home that say, like, the 2014 goal was $250,000 in revenue. I had this little piece of paper. I've been traveling around a lot. I lost it, or it got left somewhere, but it had weekly. It had the weekly revenue goals, or like the record revenue days, over the last like 6 months. And it was like, record days were like, $5,000, $8,000, $7,000. It's like. And I'm like, I have cities that like they don't do twice that, like the guys that gets fired, right? It's nice, it's exciting to see, I mean, for Scott and I, we became partners in 2003, but Spiffy really came around call it 2013, hit the market in 2014, for that 8 to 10 year journey. It's really, it's exciting to see that evolution of sort of what's the next turn of opportunities and jobs and all that sort of thing. One of the things I told, correct me if I'm wrong, I said, look, you're going to have less responsibility in sort of a narrower sort of slice, right? Like, when you start your company, you do everything, and then it gets bigger, you do a little bit less, and then one guy does operations and one guy does sales, and then somebody, there's no more bookkeeping, right? And I mean, there was a pathetically sad day in my entrepreneurial career when I entered things into QuickBooks, and then someone had to come and fix that, and so and so it's. And as an entrepreneur, you need to really look forward to that. And there's some anticipation to it. It's it's a byproduct of success, but it's also, you have to go evolve into it, right? I complain to my partner, he does all the fun stuff. He talks about the new products and he talks to the engineers, and, I have to go make sure the trucks have air pressure in the tires, right? And then, and so the grinding of how do you run a fleet of hundreds of vehicles and, knock on 600 people across 36 cities. And there's I had some issue with that for a while. And I'm like, okay, this is what I do. I'm just going to, I'm going to like it, because not liking it is your company's out of business, and it's a story you tell, when you clock into work somewhere else. And so, so you guys came to the headquarters, right? So we flew you guys in either at closing or right around before, right? So what was that? What was walking into our headquarters? And we have a nice headquarters now. Again, back in 2014, we had this 1,000 square foot unair conditioned sort of shanty, gravel parking lot. We had a girl do marketing for us, and she was in the closet hey, look, we'd love you to work here in the office, and this is your office. Are you okay with it? And if she wasn't okay with it, we weren't going to hire her, because that was it was literally the closet. It was like a walk-in closet. And so in any case, tell the story of you guys coming to the headquarters and sort of what those impressions were like. And anyone?
Josh, hit
Sure.
it.
Well, I mean, I think Adam spoke to that a little bit. I think there was an awareness that people at the helm were not only just good people, but smart people. And it instilled a lot of confidence, I think. I think it got us much more excited about the deal. We had began some relationship with you, and then we start to meet people again, like we've mentioned, Eid, or heck, Wingo, or whoever else in person, and it began to I guess just materialize the excitement that we had for who we were becoming as a company. This is who this is turning over to. So I think more than anything, it was just neat and fun experience. It was also kind of surreal, I think we start the company and we say out loud to ourselves, I'm 22 at the time. And we say, yeah, the goal is to grow this and sell in 3 to 5 years. That was our what we were shooting towards. And I have no idea if that felt like a reality or not. Probably not, right? It felt like something we say, and it felt yeah, this is the target. But I have no idea if that's a reality or not. And I don't know what the end game is. And so then when, we've had little tastes of, wow, this is happening. But then you step into headquarters and you're like, holy crap, this is it. We did it. This is the beginning of something new, but the end of 3 years of a journey that we set out to do and what we were trying to accomplish, and we did it. And that's through no shortage of really hard work, probably some luck along the way and some skill here and there, but mostly grinding and throwing a lot of darts at a wall and see what would hit. So yeah, I think there was a piece of that for sure that was just surreal and really cool, but mixed in with just fun, getting to meet folks, go spend some time on a mountain biking trail with you, maybe grab dinner with Finnegan.
Is that when we went mountain biking on that, when you guys came to visit? Is that when that happened?
I think so, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We did go to your favorite place in Durham, right? Or no, that was with the ops training that Adam and I came to. You took us to somewhere else with Connor.
Oh, to eat. You're talking about
To eat dinner. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, not to mountain bike. Yeah, I think we
No.
did. Yeah, because we were all there for that, so that would have been that time. But
When
Harry,
we had-
I'm interested to hear Harrison's answer to that question actually, because yeah, what was that? What do you think that was for you, Harry, walking in there?
I think it's a version of what you guys said. It affirmed a lot of what we hoped for, that and I wouldn't even say that like, wow, Spiffy is the promised land or something like that, but that Spiffy has the people in place and the capital in place to go and capture these goals. Like, because there's still a lot to be done here, and we get to be a part of that and have been a part of that for the last 10 months. And so it wasn't like, that was one thing too that was also pretty cool. It wasn't like stepping into a Fortune 500 company where there's a lot of corporate bureaucracy or whatever. There's direct lines to Carl, the president, and Scott Wingo, the CEO, and everyone here is, from technician on their first day to regional manager to president and CEO of the company, is working really hard, and there's a lot of teamwork and camaraderie and just like get her done attitude. And so I think I sensed a lot of that for the moment we walked in the door. You know, and Connor expressed a lot of that in our conversations. He was the warm fuzzy, and then like Carl was the cold prickly kind of bristly guy who came to some of the meetings and like, okay, so what's it actually going to feel like in there? And you know, to both of their credit, they told the truth. That's a common thing that
the reality of working at Spiffy was probably better than what you expected from the acquisition process, don't you think?
Yeah. And you know, certainly I transitioned more quickly. Like, each of us played different roles. I transitioned more quickly into, because once you had acquired our company, like my role really at Pit Crew was kind of, a lot of the things I did got eaten up by different departments and things that Spiffy has covered. And so it was like, all right, we need you to go sell. And
which is what you wanted to do. And then every time some operations thing come up, Harrison's like offering me operational advice. And I'm like, hey, dude, you sell anything today? He's like, oh, I'm working on it. He goes, what I'm concerned about, you know,
this Harrison call has never died. It's still a
filter vendor in you know, Knoxville. I said, cool. I said, is that on your job description as a sales executive working for Garrison? He's like, you know, pause. Like, no. I said, okay, well, why don't you go back and sell some shit and let the ops team worry about this?
Yeah. Well,
but you know,
about that.
And good.
About it, but 10 months later, I actually got one of those emails this week from Carl.
Still happening.
It still happens. It's like, I think we need somebody. I'm like, hey, why don't you go fucking make your forecast? I said, we got like a whole 500 people working on that problem you were worried about.
Yeah. So
yeah, well, and then we made Josh work for a while. He had to like do some ops stuff, and then Adam, I don't know how exactly Adam got looped into general manager Tennessee, but he seemed to be the most responsive, and I'm like, I think I can deal with him the best. It was sort of like
it makes me the most agreeable in the group, guys.
Well, yeah, I you know, well, so we use this internal profiling tool called ProScan, and it tells you how you make decisions and how you behave, and it's painful to like read for me, and it's like I'm very impatient, and it's like, again, like it helps build companies and it helps to grow 100% a year if you're impatient, because you know, like nothing's acceptable. But like for other people in your sphere, it's not pleasant. Sometimes it's annoying, and a lot of it's just like, okay, can you be short and to the point? Like, hey, I need this. Like, and Adam is excellent about, Carl, I have a problem. Here's the problem. Here are the 3 solutions. I think we should do 2. Do we need to talk about this? And a lot of times I'm like, I email back, I'm like, do 2, goodbye.
Which,
but it was
more of those, please. I'll
yeah,
take it. Yeah.
right. Which is, and we work great together, right? And then he just moved over to a different position, and he's working for our VP of training, who likes to talk a small story before the decision. And I'm sort of like, hey, why don't you and Adam sort it out and have him tell me what you guys want to do? And then we had Josh. Josh was running Knoxville for a while, right? Because it was a big. I'm sorry, Nashville. Josh was running Nashville for a big, because it's a big opportunity for us. And then we got him out of there, and he's on the sales team too. So, okay, so we've been at this a long time. Like, I can't imagine that people are still listening. We may have to cut it into a couple of podcasts. Who knows?
Okay. Need a good editor on this one.
Well, we may go re-record the how did you guys meet each other and give you 5 minutes to tell the story, not 50. And so,
but it's such a sweet story, Carl.
Look, the summary is you guys have been friends for a long time, and a lot of what you did before you came to Pit Crew like prepared you for that. Like the whole summer camp thing, you need to go like write those guys a letter, because the skills that you learned there are absolutely directly relatable to what made you successful Pit Crew, right? And I'm confident had you guys decided like, hey, we're going to go raise more money and go buy 10 more trucks and continue to grind on this thing, you guys would have been successful at it, because the 0 to 1 is a very, very hard period of time, very hard period of time, and there's just so many opportunities to just tap out, right? Like all of you guys like have college degrees, you're like smart, like you could go get a job somewhere else, you were underpaid by a lot, by yourself, and that just happens. Like that's the way it is, because there's like no extra money, right? It's just like, well, we can buy another truck, or we can, make, another $1,000 a month, or whatever the math is, right? And so, huge kudos to you guys for that. And again, we need to go find more people at Camp Ridgecrest and see if they want to join the Spiffy team.
We know them.
I love that idea, Carl.
I'm like serious. Like I'm not being facetious about that. So,
well, and I want to flip the question back over to you. So, post acquisition, you got our response, day we walked into the company, and kind of, whatever the 10 months following. But for you, we all had our like first encounters and first impressions, but 10 months later, what do you think?
No, again, you guys are rock solid humans, and you're great operators, and I'm glad to have you on a team, right? For sure, and I basically came to that conclusion by noon the day I was in Nashville, right? Because there's the in-person, and then there's the history, right? Scott's like that too. It's like a bad thing, but it's also a good thing. Like you just have a lot of history when you're sort of 50 and, in my case, bald and gray. There's been a lot of people that have crossed the transom, and there's a lot of great people, and you look to associate with them and find more of them. And then every now and then there's some wackadoos. And if it doesn't add up, like, the whole Occam's razor thing, like the most obvious answer is the right answer. People who seem like jackasses and are dumb are probably jackasses and dumb. And so just like, go back to, in our company, we have so much stuff going on. We have to be very rigorous in where we spend our time and our money, right? Like we do not pursue a lot of opportunities. We do not go to different places, right? You guys are dealing with this. Like Harrison's got like, hey, this client wants us to open up 3 more cities. And I'm like, no. And then Harris like, well, they'll make a guarantee, or they'll do that. He's like, we're on the 3rd iteration of how do we get Carl to not say no to 3 more cities.
He's my toughest sell.
Yeah. Well, because again, I got to go open the cities, and then I'm accountable for like them generating revenue and profits, right? Like, you should come to a board meeting, and when we didn't hit our number, it's very unpleasant for me. And so, so no, again, I think it's, success is all about great people and who you hang out with, right? Like I have two kids, an 18-year-old boy or 17-year-old boy and a 22-year-old girl. And I'm like, look, you are who you hang out with. Like if you hang out with people who drink beer and sleep late, then you're going to be someone who drinks beer and sleeps late. If you hang out with people who are trying to change the world and kick down doors and have an impact, then you're going to be someone who wants to kick down doors and change the world and have impact. And you know, Scott and I have worked for 17, 19 years together as partners because we're odd. It's counterintuitive, but we're very similar. We're absolutely aligned on outlook and values. And he's a little quieter about it. Like, I'm intolerant of people who like lie, cheat, and steal. You guys have seen some of that. My response to those folks, and Scott's like that too. And having the same values and the same ambitions just makes it easier to go deal with the shit when the shit shows up. Like it always gets harder, right? Whether it's your personal life, your kids grow up, they have challenges, they get sick, they have their issues, your relationships with other adults, your business, and it comes down to like what's important to you and who you're hanging out with and who's there when who's there when you have a problem, right? And all of you guys have these examples of like, I'll just go to that city and fix a problem. Like we had some issues in a city that shall remain nameless, and Adam's like, hey, I got free time. And I'm like, dude, you just like had a baby. Is like your wife gonna hate me for you leaving and going to the city? He's like, no, we're good. I got 2 or 3 days I can drop in and help. And so he just like dropped into a city, not unannounced, but like to help a regional manager like sort through a problem. And all 3 of you guys are like that, and Zach is like that, and our entire management team is like that. And so and that's on the front end, like we laugh about me being skeptical of the acquisition idea, because I wasn't really willing to sign up for 3 25-year-olds from Tennessee on a sheet of paper. I wanted them to go see it, and credit to Scott for like, go talk to the guys and see what it's like. So I'm very happy with it. I think the rest of my team is, right. Certainly you guys have a lot of exposure to them, and in fact, Major's new boss like called and was raving today. He's like, do you have any more out of Majors? I have more work to do. I'm like, I gave you one, like you go make him tired and busy, and we'll go find you another one.
Perfect. I was talking to these guys yesterday, and just kind of we got on the phone. We're like, hey, we're gonna do this again. It was a great conversation the first time. Let's not talk over each other if we can help it, and all that kind of stuff. And I was just talking. We're just kind of looking back. Harrison referenced in the beginning, like one of the coolest and most valuable things for us is like we come out of this story and still have like pretty rock solid friendship, relationship, working relationship, all that kind of stuff. Even though I do try to not take 5 phone calls a day from Josh anymore, but I'll take one. And
well, you do have coffee with Harrison every morning, don't you? Isn't that
Harrison and I still have desks in the same office, yes. So we do see each other quite a bit, and are raising children together, and wives are friends and all that stuff. So it's hard to get away from Harrison. So but I was just talking, we were talking about, and I was kind of getting a little introspective and looking back and talking about it. And I was reading recently, that kind of I think the thing that makes our friendship able to do that is exactly what you're talking about. And that it's like being aligned on like what horizon are we like heading towards. And I think it's been a similar experience with Spiffy. Obviously I don't have like the longevity of knowing someone since 3rd grade, but I've been able to build good relationships here, and that's because of exactly what you're talking about. It's like everybody kind of knows the horizon, we're journeying towards it together, and like that's the attitude. If like if I need to pick up and go help, like I'll pick up and go help, and like this is our goal, and we're trying to do it together. And I think it's a great atmosphere and a culture that a lot of people are envious of, and trying to find more and more of that throughout the course of life and work and all that stuff. So I think it's cool. I feel very grateful for these guys and for where we are, and for all of you all for taking a chance on us and investing in us, and at Spiffy. And so it's fun. It's cool to get to talk through this. So
Nice. Yeah. So my mission, when I went to the board and said, we need some money, or we need to take some of the money you gave us and spend it on Pit Crew, was we're going to double revenue in Tennessee and in 6 months or less, and we did that. Right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So we beat that by a month, and we doubled revenue, and we're doing a good job, and so super excited about that. So we've been at this a bit. Why don't we wrap up with, do you guys have any questions for me? I've been running this whole thing for a bit. What question do you have for me? And none is okay.
Harry started with a good one. I'll give you that, Harry. That's nice. Carl, I guess oh man, I don't want to make him personal.
Go ahead.
Carl,
look, I control the
here we go.
So we can just snip
Here
it
we
off.
go. Josh,
just at dinner, you never answered your love languages. So whenever we want to revisit that, if now's the best time, you could give us the answer to that, or maybe later down the road, whatever.
Yeah, it's touch, Josh. and the counter to that is that if I'm not in love, I tend to hit. So that's why we don't have a lot of close relationships with the sales team.
All right, Adam, sorry. Take the real question.
It's certainly not gifts. Yeah, and so for everybody listening, like, I don't think we'd actually closed the deal, and Josh had asked me this question like a year ago. Like, Josh, it definitely is the high EQ member of this team. So it's just very funny.
Yeah. Carl, I would say, there's so much going on day to day. What are the things, or the thing in the business right now that kind of gets you excited and, gives you energy and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So if $1 billion a year in revenue for a small company is rare air, 50 million a year is even more rare. Right. And so I'm humbled by that. I'm proud of it. I'm very protective of it, and I'm nervous about it. Right. So it's this paranoid optimism that I talk about a lot to the team. Like, you can be optimistic, but don't be, don't ignore the reality of how fast it can go away and how fast the conditions can change right now. Hey, one day everyone's going to work, and the next day there's a pandemic and everyone's home. What are you going to do? Right. So I'm excited about that. And then, as the business gets bigger and my role narrows to, my title's president, I'm more like a chief operating officer. I run sales and operations. The sales team is small because, as much shit as I give Josh and Harrison and Emma and Zach and Garrison, like, they're very efficient. And so, I spend most of my time, the sales team is like 10, maybe. You tack everybody together. And then, operations is like 600. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, the thing that's most exciting to me, and we were talking about this earlier, was, the opportunity to create great careers and great jobs and great ways of life for, high school graduates. Right. And so we have lots of stories of guys coming into the company making $10-12 an hour in 2015. And now they're running cities and, making, solidly upper middle class income levels, and some of that's variable, right? Like, they hit their number, they make more, they don't hit their number, they make less. But, like, taking a guy with a high school degree or a gal and putting them in a city and really giving them their own small business to run, right? And the latitude to do that. And we continue to work on trying to sort through the people not in the company, right? So everybody who doesn't get a check from Spiffy today, and who fits from a culture standpoint and a vision standpoint to come in, because the folks who come in and are aligned like that just love it, right? Again, whether they're washing cars or they're running cities or they're developing software, it's a very infectious culture for the right people. It's not right for everybody. One of the things that gets some people is, we run hard, and, like, some things are just a little messy, right? Like, to go as fast as we do, the administrative side of it gets a little messy, or there's this side of things that's a little messy. And Scott and I are fine with that, as long as people are trying to clean up the mess along the way. But some people, it's not in their DNA to run as hard as we run with, sort of a system that's not, 100% buttoned up for, buttoned up for space flight sort of thing. And so, and then get there, right? That, again, a lot of what you do in your role today is like, well, what procedure or piece of equipment do we need to button up this particular process or this particular system? So it's one, building the company and getting it to the next level, which is exciting, but just the day-to-day interactions and the career opportunities, just like you change people's lives, like not to exaggerate it or overstate it, but we got a lot of folks who are just like so happy to be here, right? And that they show up every day and they grind it out 50, 60 hours a week. But we're really creating some outstanding opportunities for them.
That's cool.
Love it.
All right, Harris, you got one more to take us on and get us out of here. What do you think?
Well, originally I'd asked you how what motivates you to do this podcast, but you had already covered that. You could pull that from the front of the podcast if you want. I think, and just to echo kind of what you said, I think the maturation of like the process, like both people development and process development at Spiffy is like unfolding before our eyes, like daily. Like I feel like there's a crazy amount of there's a lot of resource going towards that, and the Spiffy's well capitalized and has a lot of people and great clients, tons of demand, and to capture it all and takes like that piece really coming up together, like the people and process development, which is, like you said, what Adam is working on. And so I'd agree with you. That's super exciting and fun to watch. So maybe hit me with today, what's something that you're surprised that we are not doing? Like, you're looking back from 2014, there's all these ways that like maybe you're blown away from where we're at. You're talking about like record sales days back then that were $5,000 days, and of course we're doing well above that today. But what's an area today where you're like, man, I really thought we would be doing this, and like either because of economic circumstances, like macroeconomic circumstances, or even just like the way our business has gone, what's something that we're not doing today that 2014 Spiffy like roadmap, you were like, man, Spiffy's going to be in this world or in this game or doing this?
Yeah, I'm surprised how little. So we're about a third consumer today and about 2/3 fleet. I would have expected more consumers, right? And just because of the pandemic, that whole channel sort of been up and down and moved all around. That's probably we're trying to get back there, but every time we try to grow that slice of the business, then like some 5,000 car fleet shows up and like, okay, well, I've got 5 trucks to consumer now. They're going to go serve these fleets, and so there's this tremendous amount of inbound demand from us that is not like, I don't think we would have predicted it. Both Scott and I are like, we've never seen this level of sort of consumer, customer generated demand. We've always had to work harder on it, and subsequently, your teams are smaller because of that, which is sort of interesting. One of the things we did early on that I thought was going to be huge, and it was just a disaster, is power washing buildings. So we started to power wash apartment buildings and office buildings and parking decks, and it was an utter disaster because like all the providers wanted, they wanted like Tiffany's service for Walmart pricing, right? And so you spec something and they come out, it's like not good enough, and it's back and forth. So it's just sort of disaster. So okay, well, look, let's go ahead, Josh.
Well, I was gonna say, I maybe actually do have one more, if that's okay.
Sure.
Last one. I was just thinking if there's any summary that I have from Pit Crew, and you even alluded to Camp Ridgecrest and our takeaways from that. This was something I learned there that really set us up well for pickers, like I think failure is the key to success. Like I love learning by whiffing on something and falling flat on our face and being wrong about it, and then like what do we do from there? And I guess like what's been that biggest, I feel confident as an entrepreneur that you agree with that. But what's been the biggest example of that, or like how has that been the most true for you since 2013 or heck, Carolina Osball? Like how has that been the most real to you?
Of failures that turn into success. So
yeah, like yeah, a failed venture or effort, and then like the takeaway or learning moment from it.
yeah, so I like this mental habit to like ignore and like burn from memory the failures in my life. It's just easier to like not harbor those and think about those. We spent so early on, Scott funded sort of some accelerated growth out of his own pocket, and then we raised a little bit of money. And so a couple things that, we hired a contractor to build software, which was good from an MVP standpoint because we built an app and the ability to sell services for very little money, and it was just an utter disaster. And then we sort of drifted into some more, we went from sort of like $5,000 or $10,000 project to like, into the year we'd spent like $100,000 with these guys, and at the end of the day we just should have hired a developer, because the mess was just like this spaghetti ball of code and half measures because we don't have any money, right? And Scott denies that this happens, but he's like, this is all jacked up because like you're a sales guy and not an engineer manager, and you're not a product manager. And we had a product manager, this wouldn't have happened. I'm like, fine, why don't you go do it? You're like Mr. Product, go fucking run this guy. And so then like a month in, he's like, we're going to fire him. I'm like, yeah, I told you. It was, and again, we had talked about this afterward, and it's like we had made a decision to hire a contractor to build our software because it was like we could go do it in sort of $5,000 and $10,000 chunks. And we did, and we successfully elevated the capabilities of the software sort of $5,000 or $10,000 at a time. And then at the end, we ended up hiring our CTO, Ryan Ead, and he's subsequently rewritten everything from the first, probably 18 months. So anything that was code generated between 2013 and 14, that stuff has been burned and sent to the trash heap. So, and again, I don't think it's like, I'd probably do the same thing again,
Right.
I would probably do the same thing again on that side. And then, we spent a lot of money on direct to consumer marketing, and we managed the heck out of it. I had a small business before this, and I basically ran the Google advertising, the Facebook advertising, all that sort of stuff. And so I was pretty good at like pulling the metrics down and changing the copy and adjusting the marketing spend for success. And we put a lot of money into that at Spiffy early on. And again, app-based advertising and app-based metrics were very new in 2013 and 14. And so we were trying to figure out, is it us? Is it the app? Is it the market? And we probably spent six figures on that, And as you look at companies today, there's a lot of companies that just spend a lot of money on that stuff and it gets them nowhere, right? Or they're buying revenue, but it's like, look, I spent $1 on marketing and I got $1.10 in revenue. Most products don't have the margin to support that, right? So, it's important to have marketing, but like it needs to be a component of your total cost of goods. And we suffered through raising money in the years when in growth, when Uber and Lyft and a bunch of other on-demand services companies were coming out of the market, and they just had all this capital from the West Coast, and they're just spinning it away. And I would argue if we turned our growth levers down to where they are today, we probably make more money than Uber and Lyft today. At Spiffy, if we went to 20% growth instead of 200% growth, because we've always had that discipline, and that's something that Scott always brought into companies. Like, look, we're never going to have VC funds that are going to put the kind of capital in that come out of Silicon Valley, because we're in the East Coast, and it just doesn't happen, right? And so we can get some, but like we just have to be better at it, and ultimately we're going to win, because if they don't have good gross margins, and they don't have a good marketing ROI, return on advertising spend, all that sort of thing, they're not going to make it anyhow. It's just they just have more zeros to play longer and be screwed up, right? And you just have to be patient. If you're going to go build companies in the Southeast, you're going to be patient with 7 and 8 figure checks, not 9 and 10 figure checks, and build a company that way. And I think it's interesting, as we go through the recession and sort of, well, if we're in a recession, sort of the 2022, 2023, 2024 economy, I think you're going to see a lot of those places go away. You're seeing that in the news today. And so we had, again, I think that the thing about, and you guys figured this out at Picture, that, your marketing, your experiments need to be small and irrelevant to your financial future, right? Like we're going to go, when I had my car wash, I used to do marketing tests. Like if I couldn't test it for $500, I wouldn't do it. Someone would come and try to sell me some $10,000 marketing spend. I'm like, no. I'm like, dude, that's like marketing for the year, dude. Like, I'll test something for $500 without a contract for 1 month, and it needs to generate $1,000 in sales, or like I'm not going to do it. And that rigor, I've carried, and Scott has always had, and we've carried that into the company. And again, you spend some money, make mistakes, spend some money, make a mistake, adjust it, that sort of thing. So,
love it.
All right. Hey, let's wrap it up. We've been at this a long time. We're going to turn this into 2 podcasts. Hey, so my name is Carl Murphy. I'm president and co-founder at Spiffy, and these are the founders of Pit Crew, now some of the heroes on the team at Spiffy. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week.